Hello and welcome, chat, to the Nerdy Gritty. Hey, we're excited to be here. Fox isn't here yet. He's getting his son down for his nap, but he'll be joining us in just a few minutes here as soon as he's down. But that's okay because right now we are getting into our pre-show time. So if you guys don't know, this is a obviously a podcast, hence it being the podcast list under the category. Anyway, uh, but so while we're podcasting, we don't really like interact with the chat because we then put it out later as an actual podcast, and people listening to it later probably don't really enjoy us talking to people they can't see or like that they can't hear or whatever. Anyway, that being said, uh we like to still spend time with the chat before and after the podcast, though. So right now, what we're going to be talking about is just here's the question. Ready? The pre-show question. What are your favorite spoopy movies slash game slash TV shows for this time of year? There it is. All right. What are your favorite spoopy movies, games, not TV shows, no tuberculosis shows, TV shows? There we go. So just when you are getting into the season, spoopy. Let me define spoopy real quick. Spoopy over spooky. Spoopy is like silly horror, not specifically comedy horror, but just it's got all of the things that would normally denote horror tropes, but it's done in a playful or joking or childlike manner. So, i.e., like, Little Nightmares is the video game. It's a Little Nightmares is a little spooky, more on the spooky side of things, but it could also be spoopy. Nightmare Before Christmas, that's what I'm looking for. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Nightmare Before Christmas is obviously probably going to be the most popular and one of the like the favorites there. It is a movie that is all stop motion, and so the art of stop motion is beautifully, beautifully done in this. Obviously, Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman wrote gorgeous music for it, so just loved doing the. I love listening to the music for that as well, and on top of it all, it's just a really fun concept to see the holiday that is supposed to be known for how spooky it is mashed up with the holiday that's supposed to be known how joyful and happy it is, and seeing these two holidays come together presents just like a really fun concept. So that's the classic one right there. So yeah, the general question here is, what are your favorite spoopy movies, games, and TV shows for this time of year? Again, spoopy being things that have the general idea of horror, but is not actual horror. Cool Olympa, Kubo and the Two Strings is a wonderful stop motion movie. It is one of my favorite stop motion films ever. The story is beautiful and so well done. The effects are great. They do a great job in that movie of blending CG and stop motion. So, like, for example, there's a scene in it with a giant skeleton, and the skeleton is, excuse me, when you were in the hospital. Yeah, I mean, heck, that'd be a nice movie to watch. Hopefully, it wasn't anything too serious when you were in the hospital and that you recovered okay. But yeah, so good. But yeah, there's a scene with a giant skeleton in it, and this skeleton is like 6 feet tall, and 6 feet tall in the real world. In the movie, it's like 100 feet tall, but in the real world, it was like 6 feet tall, but it had a green screen behind it, and so the skeleton itself is all stop motion, but sort of everything going on behind it was all CG, and that's fine. Like, stop motion is an incredibly, incredibly difficult art form, and so it does help a little bit to be able to rely on CG. Though I will say that, uh, wow, a coma. Wow, that's a long time to be in a coma, Cool Impa. Um, I'm hoping you're okay now, that everything's all right. Hopefully. But I will say that the older stop motion stuff, again, like Nightmare Before Christmas, a lot of the old claymation stuff didn't have computer graphics to rely on, and so beautiful, so beautiful. Real life murder stories. Oh yeah, those are really fun to watch too, because they're not like super duper scary in as much as you're afraid that so and so is going to be in your closet at night, like if you were to watch Scream or whatever else. But they are still very intriguing. So okay, again, another spoopy one that I love is Monster House is a great example. Oh, Monster House is a super fun movie. I haven't seen that movie in a minute, man. It's been so long since I've watched Monster House. I'll have to pull that out just for old time's sake. It is one, if you've never seen Monster House, chat, it is like kids go to like the local haunted house in their neighborhood, but it turns out that the house isn't just haunted. It in and of itself is like monstrous. Like the house is sentient. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Box Trolls is another great stop motion movie that has like weird little goblin troll things in it, but overall just really really heartfelt. Yeah, the house was the spirit itself. Yeah, exactly, exactly. As far as like video games go, of course, Little Nightmares is one of my favorite spoopy video games. It's just it does actually get into the spooky arena sometimes, where it is actually a little bit creepy sometimes. Oh, here comes Fox. Okay, hang on. We're gonna get Fox in here. Hold on. Hey. Oh, wait. Yeah, I know. I got this. Hang on. Um. Oh, right. I got to turn on the virtual camera. There it is.
Virtual cameras.
Virtual cameras. Flushed Away. I don't know that I saw Flushed Away, Clue Fox, the pre-show question that we're getting to right now is what are some of your favorite spoopy, like, TV shows, movies, video games, whatever, for this time of year?
Spoopy, we mean like not actually spooky, but in that same vein.
Yeah, spoopy meaning like more childlike, playful, and goofy, but
Yeah,
with the creepy
Goofy
things.
Halloween.
Yeah, Goofy Halloween. No, Fox is not my brother. Koolalimpa's asking if you're my brother. No, just my co-host, friend of mine.
We don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I think we do.
I don't think either of us has done a genetic test, so.
I think there's some things we could like point out.
We both lived in Chandler, Arizona for a bunch of time. I'm just saying, there's some connections there.
Yeah, sure, man. So some of the things mentioned already, and is Monster House is a great option. Obviously, Nightmare Before Christmas is one. The video game Little Nightmares. I was just talking about how it gets a little spooky sometimes, but it is also spoopy. You know, a little kind of childlike and whatnot. So,
yeah,
what do you
honestly,
have?
I don't even know. There's a lot of there's a lot of good like halfway horror. Like there's something we don't have a lot of anymore is like kids horror movies. You know, the closest to get these days is like the Goosebumps movie or
right, that kind of stuff, like Halloween Town.
Yeah, I never saw any of those. I never watched those ones. Those were just a couple years ago. But man, you have like, would you count Stranger Things?
No. Stranger Things is genuine horror.
Spooky. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So, Little Nightmares 3 was announced. We got to play it at PAX. That was a good game. It's a lot of fun.
You did. Yeah.
I would also say any and all of the Psych Halloween specials. Psych, the TV show, is a hilarious show, but they do a good job in a lot of their Halloween specials, also being a little bit spooky, but in most of them, they are also doing homage to a genre of horror. So one of them is like all old 80s slashers. Another one is all Alfred Hitchcock. There's another one that's all psychological thrillers like Rosemary's Baby or The Shining, things like that. Yeah. So
man, I'm looking at like I just googled like best spoopy movies, and man, this is a genre that I am just not familiar with. That I have not watched a lot of movies like Casper. Casper is one I watched when I was a kid.
Oh man, Casper,
live action Casper movie
is when I fell for Christina Ricci.
Sure.
Legitimately, we were the same age. I mean, are the same age. I guess we both age at the same rate.
Well, as far as we know.
And so, isn't Stranger Things Lovecraftian horror?
Kind of.
Yeah, a little bit. There is like horror of the unknown. I'd say the first season, going into the second season, definitely has some of that in it. But they let you see the monster and understand the monster too often.
I wouldn't say it's very Lovecraftian. Like the closest you get is the kind of shape of the giant monster from the second season, the
right?
Spider thing. But yeah, Lovecraftian's more about the psychological horror of the unknown,
right?
The descent into madness more than it is about specific creatures or anything.
Yeah, the upside down dimension. There are some parallels in there. I would agree with, but overall, I think that Lovecraftian focuses way more on it being unknown, like being unable to be conceived fully
beyond your mind's capability to conceive of it.
Whereas Stranger Things leans a lot into the sci-fi. It definitely explains things.
All right. Do we consider Nightmare Before Christmas
100%
movie?
100% yes. Yeah.
It is okay, but would you say it's more of a Halloween movie or more of a Christmas movie?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally 50-50 if you're going to do that. I'd consider it more like Christ himself, the hypostatic union. It is 100% a Halloween movie and 100% a Christmas movie simultaneously.
Canon explanation. No, what's the third thing that it might be so that it can also be used for the Trinity?
The Trinitarian? A children's movie.
Children's
movie. All right.
I might genuinely try to use that at some point.
Hey, Fox, can you get your mic a little closer to your face? Is that possible?
Yeah, it tries to run away most of the time, but...
There we go.
That's a little better.
A million times better, yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, hey, we ready to podcast?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, everybody in the chat. We've enjoyed this pre-show conversation, but while we are podcasting, we will not actively be interacting with the chat because we then syndicate this. Oh, right. It's just podcast, not podcasting. Because we then syndicate this later as an actual podcast, and it's not interesting if you are listening to a podcast and they are talking to people you can neither see nor hear. And so we do not interact during the podcast, but stick around and actually keep putting stuff in the chat as if we were interacting, like comments on the things we're saying, because after the podcast, either both of us or Fox has to go, I come back and I go through all the comments and we respond to them and we chat with them. And we are able to do like some of that conversation that would have been had during the podcast. We do it afterward. But with that being said, let's go ahead. Hang on. I got to pause the music. No, not open the Epic Games Store. What are you doing?
No, let's just do that. Let's just play Borderlands 3 or something. I guess for Epic, there'd be something better, but
okay. You have the pre-show, the pre-intro.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what you're gonna say?
Yeah. I'll let the spirit guide me on this one.
Okay. In 3, 2.
Today on the Nerdy Gritty, what does it mean when a video game wastes your time?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I'm Dez. So just wasting your time, Just
If you want to know my name, you can grind out 15 more levels to be able to unlock the dungeon that you can get
You can learn about
from.
Fox from
Yeah.
to get the full lore of Fox. You need
get
to
the
be
full
able
lore
to
to be able to do the end game content.
Hey, Fox, you know
Fight
me.
slimes for 3 hours.
I am
Kind of.
I like Batman.
That's true.
I like people who are both bats and men. But actually no, because that would be Man Bat, Kurt Langstrom,
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Dr. Kurt Langstrom's, and that's, I mean, it's fine, right? Whatever. I like Batman specifically, and actually, to be clear, I didn't really like it when Jean-Paul Valley became Batman for a while. You know, the whole Asbat type thing. It was actually
I like the concept of like it being a holy calling, like the holy.
Oh
Lord
man,
idea.
Azrael is an outstanding character that has a lot of like really good potential in it. Yeah, I love Azrael. Anyway, okay. With that being said, though, what did you think of the new Batman movie came out with Robert Pattinson?
Oh, my concise opinion is, I think it was the best on-screen version of Batman, but only the second best Batman movie.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that.
Second to The Dark Knight.
I enjoyed it. I don't disagree with you, actually. I think that's pretty good. I think, man, I really like the Batman. Anyway, okay, we're getting off track. The bottom line here being is that one of people's favorite part of this was the portrayal of the Penguin, because the Penguin was genuinely just like a gang thug, right?
A gangster thug who, wasn't a super villain, was just a guy who had machinations.
Right. Absolutely.
Wanted money.
So, because of this, they have actually come out with a new Penguin TV show on HBO Max, which is streaming now. I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm going to. But that got me thinking, what are some other superhero villains from any lore that would make a good TV show? You know, what show would we really want to watch from a comic book villain? And I've got my first here.
Yeah,
are you ready for this?
Ahead. Yeah.
Condiment Man. Do you know who Condiment Man is?
Let's do it. I do know who. Oh yeah, he's right up there with Bootface.
Bootface. So Condiment Man, if you guys don't know this, was a character in Batman. It was a joke. It was Batman the Animated Series, in which the Scarecrow had taken fear away from everybody, and so they were doing things that like they wouldn't have never done. And a comedian decided to rob like rich parties as Condiment Man, in which he squirted ketchup and mustard out of guns in his hands and made a lot of puns like "I'm relishing this moment" and what.
So good.
So I want to see like the full in-depth story of Condiment Man. You know, I want it to be like the first 2 episodes. You think it's going to get to Joker. You think it's like supposed to be, and then the big twist comes when he's like, "Oh, this world is insane, and I'm just gonna match its insanity." And then it pans up, and it's a dude in a gray, like skin tight suit with a ketchup and mustard gun in each hand, and he's just like, "Pew pew pew pew." And then the rest of it's just chaos after that.
Okay. I want a movie or a show, really, maybe as much time as possible, but I want it specifically in the Sony Spider-Man universe. So it's going to be bad, but I want it to be about, what's his name? Oh, dang it. Let me confirm. There we go. Big Wheel.
Big Wheel?
Big Wheel. Let me get you his, let me get you some specifics on this.
This is a real thing. Big Wheel.
Yes, Big
okay.
Wheel. You know what? I'm just going to give you a link in our little thing to tell you who this guy is.
Okay, how about you actually tell me about it, because I can't. Okay, if I minimize the screen, they're gonna lose your face in this. Yeah.
His name is Jackson Wheel. He was an embezzling businessman taunted by the Rocket Racer, who decided to get a weaponized big wheel made by the terrible Tinkerer, who is another villain.
The Tinkerer.
He found being a supervillain was much harder than it looked. And while battling Spider-Man and the Rocket Racer, the big wheel fell into the Hudson River.
And
the big wheel later resurfaced under Overdrive's control when he joined the Sinister Six.
but that's his main deal, is that he was like, oh, this is much more difficult than I thought. And then he falls into a river, and that's about it. Like, that's his whole deal.
That is,
But I want a super serious, like, Morbius level.
yes,
movie about
absolutely.
Big Wheel.
That ends with
It-
him falling in the river, and
It's
that's it.
wheeling time.
It's wheeling time. This
That's the
movie's gonna be wheel awesome.
This is the entirety of its entry on the Marvel database, on the Marvel wiki. That paragraph I read you.
That whole thing.
Everything about him.
Yes, I want this TV show that just builds and builds and builds to the big wheel,
The
hitting
big wheel.
hitting the city, and then he just falls in the river, and
They try
end
to
of
give him
show.
like a serious, like, origin story. My mother gave me this big wheel tricycle when I was a kid, and then she mysteriously disappeared. We need every villain to have a Madam Web Morbius-esque. I'm looking forward to Kraven the Hunter. It's gonna be hot garbage.
It's gonna be so bad.
It seems like they're contractually obligated to make them bad.
Yeah, why? I don't understand.
All the Venom movies are not good. Like, they're just not good at
The
this.
third Venom movie's in the trailer for the third Venom movie.
Yep.
Venom Last Dance sure looks like the other
No-
ones.
Noel is showing up, but he's gonna be stupid.
Yeah. Hey, you know who Bizarro is, right?
Of course.
Bizarro has had a lot of different stories, like, and versions of him and like who
Mhm.
he really is, but canonically, he comes from a Bizarro planet.
Yes.
In
Or
which-
it's a cube, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
in which everything is just kind of the opposite
you know
of
how
what
a
it
cube
is.
the opposite of a sphere?
Right. And so I want a show on Planet Bizarro about Bizarro that is
Hmm.
basically incomprehensible because because they say everything backwards. So it would say, I don't want a show about Bizarro because I hate how talking backward is not funny. And that's and everything has got to be exactly like that, where it's just
But
like
they just go full into it.
100%. And you're watching it and you're like, okay, wait, no, pause it. Because what he's actually saying is that
Hold on.
he does
He
want.
does want to do this. Okay. All right. And every episode is like 20 minutes long, but it takes 4 hours to watch.
Well, and I want it to be like genuine drama, like as real and serious as possible, but the dialogue is absolutely incomprehensible.
or the other thing is just make it an extremely politically driven show, and like just even comically so, where it's like, here on Bizarro World we have we have universal health care and everything's fine. Like everybody's great. Nobody, we give housing to everybody and it's all great. Nobody has to worry about it.
It's
like
totally
comically-
backwards, right?
Comically,
How backwards and
comically
weird
bad.
we are, and everybody just stares right into the camera.
Oh man, that would also be good.
Who else you got?
There needs to be a Sinister Six movie, but they end up all fighting each other. Like, I feel like that's going to be the end thing. Oh wait, hold on. This just reminded me. We need, and this might be a serious thing, not a joke here. They've been trying to do a Powerpuff Girls thing for a while. There was a whole show that literally just got canceled because it was terrible. But do
Right.
you know who one of the creepiest villains, speaking of spoopy, one of the creepiest villains of all time is? Him. Do you know who did you ever watch Powerpuff?
Oh, yes.
Him is essentially
yes.
the devil.
Essentially
the
Satan,
guy.
yes.
Kind of, yes.
Yes.
Let's get a him movie. Let's get a him some kind of creep.
That's
Speaking
pretty good. I like that one.
No, speaking of Lovecraftian horror, you hear of him throughout this whole show, and they're like fighting like the Mojo Jojo and all these goofy things, but behind the scenes you just hear whispers of him.
And then sometimes
you
you
know
just
what, that's
hear his
actually
voice
gold.
in the night.
Yeah.
His voice was always like one of the creepiest things
Yes,
about that,
the
man.
high pitch. Here's a true story. When your kids came over to my house, my wife's house, like just for a day or something, I forget what the deal was. We were babysitting, and we were like, yeah, let's just watch a show. And the Powerpuff Girls was on Netflix or whatever it was. and we just started from the first episode, and each episode has like 2 halves, 2
Yeah.
11-minute shorts.
Yeah.
We watched the first one. It's wonderful. It's great. It's probably Mojo Jojo, I think. The second one is about him and has a scene where like Bubbles or something is trying to fall asleep and him shows up, but it's like even I was like, this is creepy. And I knew immediately this was a mistake.
Yeah.
He genuinely creeped out. I think it was your youngest. I think
Probably
it was
Charlotte.
Probably. And I
Yeah,
was like,
that would make sense.
This was on us. This
Yeah.
was our fault. That's a genuinely creepy thing. Anyway, let's get him up in the mix.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good one, man, and it would be one that you could actually make pretty creepy if you wanted to, like
Sure.
like juxtaposed with the goofiness of Powerpuff Girls in
Just know
general.
very little about him.
Yes, yes,
Don't ever explain anything. But he's already creepy to some people just purely because he kind of, by some people's standards, cross dresses and has a very feminine attitude about
Right.
him. Like, and so he's just like, I feel like it could really work and maybe have some kind of actual like point to it. Too.
yeah. We're comedic in this opening segment, but that
Yeah.
one could actually have some stuff to it.
I know I'd say TM, but I'm pretty sure somebody already owns it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Okay, I got
Just in
one
case,
more.
TM.
I got one more.
Yeah.
And it's not a villain, unfortunately. It's a hero team. I want an Alpha Flight TV show. If you don't know who Alpha Flight is,
sure, yeah.
they're the Canadian Avengers, essentially.
Basically.
But I want it to be like the most polite and
The
like
most Canadian.
yes,
thing
the
of
most
all time.
Canadian show ever, where they're stopping maple syrup heists and things like that, which is a real thing, by the way. That's a real thing in Canada.
Somebody's breaking into the Tim Hortons down the street.
Right. Chat says the Avengers bootleg edition. Yeah, pretty much, right? That's Alpha Flight. And I want it to be that. Like, I want it to be just the most, like, low stakes superhero thing ever. And them, like, apologizing to the villains and the villains being like,
Not a lot
no,
of
it's
crime
okay.
going on in
I'm
Canada.
I'm
We
heading to
gotta
jail, eh?
They just have like a moose on their team.
Yeah,
Doesn't
exactly.
have powers or anything.
It's
It's, just,
just
a
a
moose,
moose.
that's there, but they're genuinely like terrifying.
And
That
I
one-
and I want the moose to like never actually be there, and then it gets like an actual tense moment, and then out of nowhere the moose just rams the villain.
Ryan Reynolds is there. Ryan Gosling is there, but they're just them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I very much want this now. I would love this show so much. This could be like a Taika Waititi show. Like, I could see him writing something like
It's-
this.
And it's shot unapologetically in Toronto instead.
Yes,
Instead of
100%.
Toronto trying to substitute in for any other every single other city on Earth.
Oh man. All right, that's what I got. Hey, chat, let us know what shows you would like, or what comic book villains you would like to see a comedic show out of. Or if you are listening to this later, you can join us for this conversation because we stream these. So we'd love to see you guys in the stream sometime over at twitch.tv/SavePointMin. With that being said, though, hey Fox, what is going on in the world of news, my friend?
Well, do you watch SNL? Do you watch Saturday Night Live at all?
I watch a lot of like the clips afterward, specifically
Same.
the weekend
That's how
update
people-
ones, but that's
how
it.
people do it these
Right.
days.
Yeah.
Unless you were actually physically at the taping of it, you watch it on YouTube the next day.
Right.
Nobody stays up to watch it. Anyway, well, SNL came back. It's their 50th season. They had
Jeez.
their first episode of the 50th season this Saturday, and it. I want you to guess. Have you watched any of the clips from it or anything?
No.
Okay.
Other than, again, I do the weekend update with Michael Che and Colin Jost. I pretty much every
Yeah,
single
sure,
one.
sure.
Yeah.
There are two big, quote unquote controversial things. One of them's bigger than the other. Where one of them is from the weekend update where what's his name, Bowen Yang did a thing where he was that hippo and the
Oh, right.
internet hippo and
Yeah.
did the thing with. There's another controversial quote unquote the joke is that it's a feud now. Who is SNL feuding with after this episode? I want
Oh,
you
no.
to guess. I'll give you a hint. It's relevant to this time of year.
Relevant to this time of year?
Yes.
Oh, man. Then I'm going to say they are now feuding with...
Think October.
No, I know. Yeah. Tim Burton.
Ooh, close. Spirit Halloween.
Oh man, that I should have gotten there. Yeah, that makes sense.
SNL is feuding, quote unquote. It's not a feud. It's just a fun
Right.
with. Well, I mean, it's. I think they both have different opinions. Anyway, they did a whole like pre-recorded tape, like pre-taped sketch about Spirit Halloween where they basically just dunk on it for a couple of minutes.
Right.
Where they'd say like, "Oh, you come in and support our communities for 6 weeks, and then you bounce," and things like that. You make knockoff costumes and low quality stuff and all this. Spirit Halloween, although it might be, I mean, it's a funny joke. It's hard to tell if they're being serious about it or not.
Right.
I hope I think they should be a little more clear that it's a joke if it is, and it would land better. Spirit Halloween tweeted at SNL with a their costume packaging, and it just says on the side it has a picture of their logo SNL 50, and on the left the name of the costume is Irrelevant 50-Year-Old TV Show.
That's a sick burn. I like that.
Includes dated references, unknown cast members, and shrinking ratings.
Ooh.
We are great at raising things back from the dead at NBC SNL.
Oh, that's so good. I hope, like, did they respond to that? Did SNL respond?
I don't think so, not yet. But they should lean into it.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Because that is both a very sick burn, but also something that, like, it's one of those ones that everybody can laugh like, ha 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 ha, but SNL might secretly be like, how dare you?
Hey,
Yeah.
Lorne Michaels is seething
Right.
now. Actually, I don't care. I don't think SNL cares at all.
No.
I think this is actually just great advertising for both.
I think more than anything, SNL has long since become their movie farm system, is what it is. Like in sports, they're the farm system in which you're training up like young players to see who's going to be great to bring up to the bigs. I have always found SNL to be basically their farm system for their next big comedy movie star.
There haven't been a lot of SNL based like sketch based comedies. I think more than like movie plot ideas or like sketches, it's more like actors.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. The actors.
They're
yeah.
getting these,
like
you know,
Andy
small
Samberg and Will Ferrell.
in there.
And,
And then Lorne Michaels produces 1,000 movies.
Right. And
probably because he has a connection to the actors and
Yeah.
has like input on their contracts and stuff.
well, and that's the way they find out if this person will be able to be a movie star. How have they handled their roles on SNL? So yeah, I don't think they really care about
Anyway,
stuff.
Whoever wins, we also win.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I hope this continues.
And unless they hire some pretty solid stock in there, I think SNL is going to have the comedy burn edge here. Like,
We've got literally a team of writers.
yeah. Hey, on a happy, awesome note, you know what just opened on October? Let's see. October 2nd, like literally just opened.
That's today.
Nintendo's very first museum.
Oh, really?
The Nintendo Museum opened up in Japan.
That's weird that it took this long.
I know, right? It is a legit, like, educational museum of the 135-year history of Nintendo.
And also the 40 years that people care about.
So what's really interesting is they, like, definitely obviously go into the video game side of things.
Sure.
But they also go all the way back into, they started out as a playing card company.
Right.
And so there's like whole sections in there in which you can see a lot of their original stuff. You can actually make some of the cards. You can learn to play the games that they like flower cards, I think is what it's called. It's
some kind of like Japanese card game, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying, the name here is
it's called Ye Old Yu-Gi-Oh.
That's exactly what it is. Hanafuda. Hanafuda is the name of the card game, which means flower cards. And so you can make some of your own. You can play the game itself.
That's cool.
But then on top of that, it has actual physical concept consoles, concept controllers, examples of concept games and things like that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then
really fun.
One of the most fun things that they have is giant controllers to play classic games, so that kind of like the McElroy brothers do,
Oh,
6 thumbs, 3 hearts.
right.
You have to play with somebody else because it's too big for you to reach across, And so you'll be on one side with just the D-pad and somebody else on the other side with the buttons, and you got to work together to play the games. And so
They're gonna do a games done quick specifically from there.
it looks super fun, really cool. How much American dollars do you think it costs per adult / per child?
Here's the thing. I'm planning on going to Japan in a few years, so I've been doing a lot of like museums and looking at prices and stuff. But this is brand new,
And it's the Nintendo Museum.
It's Nintendo, so it's going to be a high, like, sought after thing per, for one entry for an adult in US dollars. I'm going to say round number $80
Okay. And what about per child?
per child. 40.
You're nearly triple incorrect. $23 per adult and $15 per child.
That's great.
That's outstanding.
That's amazingly cheap.
Genuine, real museum prices, right?
Yeah, for real.
So, to prove Disneyland's theory, though, to get in, you have to... okay, I'm going to read this. Ready?
Okay.
Ready to visit? Here's where things get tricky. One can't just show up to the door and buy a ticket. Visitors have to go to the museum's website, sign up for a lucky draw at least 3 months in advance. So to sign up
They
for
got
the
loot boxes.
you have to sign up for the raffle 3 months in advance. You can't just sign up for a raffle. You have to pre-plan to get lucky, maybe.
You have to sign up for the chance to maybe get in.
This means that travelers can now enter a draw to get tickets no earlier than January. So, the
5
again,
months?
the
4 months in
raffle
advance?
happens in January. If you sign up now, the raffle will happen in January. If you get chosen,
Okay.
then you are offered 3 dates and times, and you choose the one that works best for you.
How far in advance are those dates and times? Do you know? Does it say? Like if I'm traveling and going to be there for a month, but the dates and times are 4 months from now.
It doesn't. Oh, 2 months ahead of their scheduled visit date.
Oh my goodness.
So
Let's hope this gets easier.
if
in
you
6
win,
years.
it's 2 months ahead of their scheduled visit date, and the tickets must be purchased immediately.
Well, sure, that makes sense.
If any of that does not work, then you have to go back to the museum's website calendar, and you can look for tickets that have been passed up or added later. And then you can buy them secondarily. It does not say how much secondhand tickets are. It doesn't say how much it is if you try and buy them
goodness.
after they've been forfeited. I bring up Disneyland because Disneyland has consistently been raising their prices, if you guys didn't know
Yes.
this, to
Yes.
try and not just to try and squeeze money out of people. It's literally just so they can help limit the amount of people in the park at any given time. Otherwise, it gets to situations like this, where to make sure that it's not constantly overflowing with people, you got to get wild with how you sell tickets. So, but all in all, to say that I do think this museum is very cool. I love the idea of just
I'll absolutely be trying to go there when we make
Oh,
that trip.
100%. Yes. They do make it very clear this is not a theme park. You can't go and hit blocks and do whatever kind of
Right,
like
there's Nintendo
there is
World
Super
for
Nintendo
that.
World for that. Yes.
Yeah.
But this is a
Or
museum.
Nintendo Land or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds great.
Yeah, but it looks super duper cool. I hope they figure out something better for getting people in the door. Yeah.
Sure. Well, we'll see.
All right. Well, hey, that's what I got for the news. Fox, you got anything else?
Let's hit that old nerdy gritty.
Let's get down to the nerdy gritty right after this. Hey y'all, before we get into our main topic today, I need to let you know that the Nerdy Gritty is brought to you by SavePoint Ministries. We're an organization that wants you to know that you are deeply loved and valued by Jesus. But we also believe that a physical, real-world community is something that's vital for all people. So we combine these two ideas, and we find what's called nerd-friendly churches for people who are looking for one. This is a place where you can learn about the love and salvation of Jesus, but you can also talk to somebody about your D&D character or what games you've been playing or whatever else.
So if you're somebody who's interested in finding a nerd-friendly church, or maybe you are a pastor or a volunteer at a nerd-friendly church and you want to be featured, well, then go over to our website, savepointministries.com, and we'd love to help you from there. Okay, let's actually get down to the nerdy gritty.
So, an article just came across my newsfeed, dropped yesterday.
Yeah.
The title of the article is, I stopped playing video games that don't respect my time, parentheses, you should too. Essentially saying that video games that, in the writer's opinion, waste your time should just be cut out of your play entirely.
Yeah.
That if it forces you to waste your time, the entire game itself is not worth playing. Get to other games on your backlog or your catalog or whatever else.
Get to something that's more respectful, more works better within your schedule.
So before we really get into the conversation of if we agree and what parameters and whatnot we set on this, let's just define for a second here what it means for a video game to waste your time. Fox, how do video games waste your time? Why are them video games a waste of time?
A waste of your time. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I mean, like most things, it is pretty subjective.
Right.
There are games that I would find to not be a waste of my time because I really enjoy them versus things that you wouldn't find a waste of. You know, if a game has a decent amount of grinding in it, but it's just a fun grind, or it's like cool end game content that I'm more than happy to like get the specific drops. And like if I enjoy doing it, I guess what it comes down to is if you enjoy doing it, it's not wasting your time.
Right.
Ultimately, like one of the main goals of gaming is fun, enjoyability, and sometimes we like that, especially if we're playing together. Like if I had a group of people playing World of Warcraft together and we're out there just grinding away on those mobs, trying to get the right drops, that's a fun thing to do. You got people to hang out with and you're accomplishing goals. But ultimately, in my opinion, wasting your time is when it's really when you'd rather be like when I put on a TV show and I'm watching that while mindlessly playing the game in the background. Something of that nature where there's not something that's genuinely engaging me about this. I have to just get through it to get to the next thing that I actually want to do. And it can take a lot of forms, but it's just when it feels like this is not an ideal use of your time.
Yeah, I mean, to put it like, the writer made some examples of this like very concrete. That's what I'm looking for. Make it concrete, and some of the writer's examples are things like Skinner Box, which we talk about a lot negatively, which is the daily rewards that you get, and your repetition of coming back every day for those daily rewards creates a repetition of you opening the game, and eventually you are doing this not because you are actively wanting to play the game, but because this is just the repetition you've created for yourself.
Right. Or like a loot box is a Skinner box where you don't know what you're going to get until you get it, and you just keep hitting the button, hoping you'll get it. And
it's that dopamine hit of, I got prize. I can get prize tomorrow too.
The next time I could do it again.
Yeah. So those types of things.
Also known as gambling.
But and this is just to kick off some of my struggles with the article itself. He also just cites things like grinding, like you were talking about, having to go get stronger so you can proceed with the story. He also cites fetch quests and too many side quests and things like that. I think there is such thing as artificial game length. And I think there is such thing as wasting a player's time. I don't know if I agree with every definition that this... I actually give credit to the writer of the article.
Yes. This is Jason Dukeran.
Okay, I want to make sure I saw that last name right. Dukeran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, real Dukeran. We'll say it... Count Dukeran.
Yeah, Oh, I really hope that's his screen name.
Sure that's
got to be it, man. Yeah. Jason Dukeran is the name of the author here.
This is howtogeek.com.
Right, on howtogeek.com. So I understand why he defines these things. I would say that games wasting your time is anything that a game forces you to engage in that is not helping you progress in some way.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, like, for
But-
me, I would say one of the ones that I have been finding a lot recently because I've been playing some Metroidvanias is retreading maps for necessary items.
Mhm,
You're in part A of the map, the northwest point, and the game says the key to the you talk to a PC there, an NPC there, and the NPC says the key to this is in the southeast part of the map. And you have to
Right.
go all the way to the southeast part of the map so you can talk to another NPC and then make your way all the way back up to the northwest part of the map so you can then open that door.
Yeah. The fast travel is like, maybe gets you slightly closer. But
Right.
you still have to redo, platforming puzzle challenges that you've done thousands of times.
Yeah.
Like, I
Animal
already did
Well.
this.
Animal Well was really
Animal
egregious
was
in this.
terrible with this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, and I talked about it a lot when I played Animal Well, artificial game lengthening, these really like brilliant and unique platforming challenges that you got to do like 4 or 5 times, and some of them are pretty difficult and challenging.
4 or 5 times if you have a guide. If
Yeah.
you're literally just wandering around the map looking for more eggs in that game, you're gonna redo the same thing 1,000 times.
Yeah, yeah. And so those are the type of things that I consider actual artificial game lengthening. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the definitions that he has here right from the beginning, because I want to give my case for why some of these aren't artificial. And he does make it clear, like, really, and I'm going to say this at the end. This is going to be my final point. It's all going to come down to what you personally define as fun.
Sure,
That's
ultimately,
really it.
that's
Yeah.
his opinion too.
Yes, yes. So, but that being said, that if we're going to talk about like grinding, I love that in the FromSoft games. I love coming up
Sure.
to a boss, not being able to beat it, and realizing, okay, this boss seems like, they're throwing a lot of ice, so they're going to be weak to fire. I have this fire weapon, but I don't have the strength to do it yet, but I'm close. If I go hammer out a few more levels, I can up my strength so I can wield this fire sword and then go back in. And like doing those types of things, I find incredibly rewarding. I don't want to just say, fire will work on this guy. I'm just going to swap to fire sword. Like, I feel like I'm not earning that strength now. I'm not earning that ability to just grab that and use it now, unless I have already chosen that path. I
Sure.
can wield this sword because of the decisions I have
Yeah.
already made,
Like in Dark Souls 2, where 90% of the bosses are weak to electricity.
or like in, for example, what I found out, unfortunately, the hard way in Elden Ring is most of the best weapons are faith builds, and faith was my dump stat. I've got nothing in faith. And so it's so many great weapons that I could have used if I wanted to spec for faith, but I didn't. And so I had to find unique and different ways to be able to
Sure.
strengthen my character, to be able to go and defeat these bosses. And it caused me to have to grind more, but I found it wildly rewarding to be able to do these things.
Sure. I mean, I think there's better ways to do that, though. The thing that's coming to mind is it's not like you're grinding for better levels or anything, but in Resident Evil 8, in Village, you have 4 major plot story, plot segments, go through the different parts of the map, and you're fighting the different bosses. But in between, there are often little offshoot little paths that you can go down. I'm remembering specifically, I think it's after you leave the creepy doll house, and then you come down, and then there's just this abandoned warehouse kind of thing, and it's just like a confined boss fight where you're fighting just a big, and not a boss, like a sub boss maybe, but it's it shifts up the tone a little bit and shifts up the gameplay a little bit, so it feels like you're getting a relief from what you just spent a chunk of time doing, and it's completely skippable. You can just go right past it. But if you do, you can get weapons and ammo and all, a bunch of stuff that will be helpful down the line. But it doesn't, and it kind of is grinding. You don't have to do it. You could probably go on and continue and progress without doing it, but it does help you feel stronger. But it's also not just repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again. You're going into a new area and doing something new, like fighting in a new situation, a new boss. I mean, obviously you're still using combat like you do with everything else, but it's a new scenario to overcome. And I feel like that is a cool way to reduce the grind sometimes, rather than, oh, let's find whatever enemy gives us the most amount of hit point or experience and fight it 500 times. Give us something different in between to kind of give us an ability to kind of grind a little bit. It's not exactly the same, obviously, but or like in God of War Ragnarok, there's that massive section, the crater or whatever it was section, that is completely skippable, but it's just so much stuff to do, and you get a bunch of drops, loot, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And it helps you down the line. And like, I like that when it's kind of grinding, because you don't have to do this, but it will help you get stronger. But also it's still refreshing and something new to do, and something at least different, and not just standing in the same spot fighting 100 enemies.
No, that's fair. I don't disagree with that at all. I think now that you mention it, in my brain, I was specifically more thinking of Elden Ring and the ability just to go to a different area and explore that for a little
Elden Ring
while.
is good at this too. I mean, you can also just stand on that one cliff and kill that one giant bird enemy by making it fall off of a different cliff 1,000 times like I did, and just cheese your way through a bunch of levels.
Right.
You can do that, but yeah, Elden Ring is great at just, okay, well, I'm going to go in this direction. I assume while I'm in that direction, it's not where the main fight is, but it's, I'll be able to fight other enemies and find something new. Like, exploration is still part of it.
Right.
It really just comes down to what we decide is progression at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if the game allows you to stand there and grind a bunch of mobs in the same area, you're still progressing your level,
Because I would also say that for specific games, the combat is the enjoyment. Feeling the fluidity of hitting dodge at the exact right time and combining it with this attack and whatever else. And so being told you have to go do this thing you enjoy more often is not a grind at that point. It's like, cool, man. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's go do that. So I guess at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of subjectivity to this. There really is. Yeah.
But we all know that games do waste your time sometimes I think there's a meta conversation here of production companies, develop companies know that gamers expect a certain amount of content in the game that they're paying X amount of dollars for. And so if they put out a $70 game, but it's 8 hours long, but it's an incredibly tight, rewarding 8 hours, there is still going to be a large amount of people that are like, that's it.
Yeah.
But then if you just say, oh, now you have to, okay, if you just progress through the game without stopping to level up more, you're not going to be able to kill the bad guy at the end. You have to go kill a bunch of more bad guys, but that adds on, it doubles the length, 8 hours. Some people will be more happy with that, even though they weren't actually doing anything extra. They were just kind of grinding their way, and I feel like there's, in the JRPG realm, this is a pretty standard operating procedure of just, we could cut this down by so much, and that pacing could be a way better, but people expect 100 hours of gameplay out of the next Final Fantasy, so we have to do that. And
I think, thankfully, we're getting more away from that these days, like the expectation of game lengthening.
Yes.
And, I think the Resident Evil games are the best examples of this, that
8 was perfectly paced.
Right. Exactly. Where the newer numbered ones are 20-ish hours long if you want to, really explore everything. And that's fine. And then the remakes of the older ones are 10 to 15 hours long.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but they all feel,
and they're outstanding.
They all feel perfectly presented in
yes.
They don't feel like, oh, that was it. And 3 kind of felt like that was it. A little bit. It was surprisingly short, but I think that was mostly in comparison to 2.
Right.
But they also don't feel like, well, I'm just wasting my time here. No, they're very good. I would say in the RPG realm, Sea of Stars, the indie game from a couple of years ago, was a really great example of you really just can't grind in that game. You can go back to an area. So if you enter a new area, there are enemies there. If you kill all of them in the area, they don't come back.
they'll come back if you come back later, but they're not random. They don't just appear when they're off screen or anything. So you just progress through the level, you kill all the bad guys, then you get to the boss. And the bosses, like as far as my playthrough went, were, you know, challenging for the level that you would probably be at. You would be at that time. Like it just like escalated at like kind of a straight line, you know, like, and it felt great. Like I never felt frustrated because, okay, difficulty spike here, I guess I have to go grind out a bunch of these other dudes again. And I never felt like there's nothing to do. I'm just progressing through this area doing like it felt like a very good tightly crafted experience. At the end of the game, you're like level 19, which feels really low compared to JRPGs, but ultimately it's just an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
It's just an arbitrary number that we have for games. So you can't really complain about that.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's do this then. Let's begin with, he has 5 specifically listed things here that he looks for as one that is respectful of your time. Let's talk about these, add our own or whatever else. And then at the end of this, let's have a conversation on how we think games can be better with this and ways that they can sort of balance it like we've already been doing. But for now, let's talk. We've already been talking about this a little bit. The first one was minimal or skippable grind.
Yeah.
So we are talking about grinding now, meaning time that you just have to go and exercise the loop of the game in whatever way this is, whether that is exploration or combat or whatever else. You have to go exercise the loop of the game with no purpose of actual progression in the game, just to make your character stronger. So he says minimal or skippable grind, and I think that's sort of vague because most games have skippable grind. Sure is going to be hard to progress if you don't, you know, like you could say in a JRPG, you don't have to grind as long as you're good enough, you know, you're talented enough
it's
to
just
go.
a skill issue. You just
Yeah.
need a skill, hashtag skill issue.
So I think here what's more being said is not making bosses or points in the game that have a massive difficulty spike specifically so you must go grind.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we can always just say, well, you just should have done better. I mean, in things like Elden Ring, you can, from the start, you don't have to level at all. You can dodge well enough, you can just kill every boss, no problem.
Which
If you're
people do.
People do it.
Yeah.
But in some games, if it's like a turn-based JRPG, like your enemies will get turns, and if their attack is high enough over your defense, they'll just kill you. Like you don't have the choice to just be better. It's not skill, it's strategy at that point. And you don't have their resources are higher than yours.
Right.
And without grinding, potentially without grinding, you can't. Now, I think in a well-crafted JRPG or something, those resources just raise up to the right level when you naturally play through the game. Tales of Arise was like this. I 100%ed that game, including getting the characters to level 100, and only had to grind the last 3 levels. Like it's nothing. Like it was well paced, where there was content consistently throughout the game that would get you to the next level, and it felt like cool. I'm progressing in at every step till the very last part.
I also think playstyle comes into this a lot in games that do necessitate a grind. Final Fantasy VII, I'll use an example, the original. Sure. Like sequence breaking, I find very, very fun. There is something you can do in Final Fantasy VII where as soon as you're able to harvest your own chocobos, you get an S rank chocobo, and that allows you to get to an area that you're not able to get to this area until the final disc of the game normally.
Yeah.
And then you go into this area and you charge through it, running away from every single battle so you can get to a specific chest. You open this chest and get a late game sword, and then you run back out as soon as possible. And then there is a boss that is like an early game unbeatable boss, like scripted to lose to boss.
Supposed to die, yeah.
Yeah. And you can go and just murder this boss over and over and over and over again, and just like cruise up levels like massive, like mad. And I loved doing that
That's
every
fun.
time. It felt
That's a good
again.
time.
I think how it rewards you is going to be the end of the day. Is how does the
Yes.
game reward you for the grind? If your grind is exclusively letting you move on to the next part of the game, that's not rewarding.
Sure.
That's just you've put an unnecessary roadblock in my way. But if there is something that lets you feel like you have accomplished something great, you have been rewarded in some way for your effort, I think that is a excusable grind.
There's a really good example of this in Final Fantasy X, where you can overkill an enemy, which means you've done a certain amount of damage on its, I think, on its final hit, the hit you kill it with. If you do a certain amount of damage, or maybe it's just total amount of damage over its max HP, you get an overkill, and it gives you, I think, more experience or like better chance at loot or something, like a better, better drops or something, where it's like that is easier to do when you've grinded a little, when you grind out some levels. And so you don't have to, it just helps you a little bit. Like it kind of like feeds into that loop of, well, if I get better, I will get better and get better. And then it has some ridiculous end game bosses that if you're going for them, you probably want to be doing this. If you just want to go through the story, you do not need to worry about it. It's not relevant to the game at all. I don't really even think you have to grind very much in Final Fantasy X at all just to play through the regular game.
Right. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. It's the reward, right?
It's the
you
reward.
get rewarded for that grind and you feel good about it.
If
and it
there's
ends up being
something
worth
above
it.
and beyond.
Yeah. The next one here is no time gated systems or daily login rewards.
This one is the most I disagree with him.
Oh, really? I was going to say this might be the one I most agree with him on.
I don't think daily logins are a time wasting thing. It's just a simple reward for coming in and playing the game.
Yes.
It's more of an addiction problem.
Yes.
It's more of like trying to feed your addiction, fear FOMO, FOMO problem.
Yeah.
Time gated systems, I mean, by definition, obviously you're a time waster. Like if it's some mobile game where it's like you've ran out of spirit gems for the day, you have to wait until or you can buy some more. He talks about this. Sometimes the time wasting can be skipped if you just give them actual money dollars. But I don't know. Do we count like Animal Crossing as time gated systems?
I think.
And I have to wait till the next day for this event to happen or to hit my money rock again. So, like, and that's part of the fun for me. I refuse to time travel in that game because I liked the slowed down progression.
I think again, it depends on what you are going for in the video game.
Yeah.
I think his point, and what I agree with him here, is Animal Crossing is a great example. Why? Why do you have to wait that day? Is there a purpose behind it other than them just making you wait? Right. And I think in Animal Crossing it is. It's just making you wait. I guess part of the purpose of the game is to be a slow-paced game.
It is. It's like a chill, relaxing game. Right. You have this fun island. There's no waiting to decorate your house. There's just a few things that each day, or like, it takes a few days to build a bridge. But most of the stuff you can just do to your heart. You can fish as much as you want any day of the week,
Yeah. But to say that, like, I want to do this now, but I can't for no other reason than the game just wants me to wait till tomorrow.
And
it's not an ability thing.
The
it's not
game
a skill
wants
thing.
You to give it money.
Right.
Most time-gated things are just microtransactions.
Right. And I think Animal Crossing is a unique exception to this because the purpose, I don't know that I call it exception even, but that's because Animal Crossing didn't really hit with me, but that's a more personal thing.
Sure.
But I think that the purpose in Animal Crossing is to look at the player and said, hey man, slow down. Relax, chill. If you don't want to play the game while you wait, you don't have to. You can just come back tomorrow and play. Like it.
Right.
It's going to be okay.
There's not going to be a problem.
Right. And if you want to wait, if you want 2 days,
all the art, but you have to wait once a week. The art dealer comes. Like you have. It's just how it goes.
And so I think when that's part of the goal of the game, I think it's excusable, and that becomes at that point a preference thing. In the same way that challenge, I find that very similar to challenge in a video game, where if the game you are presenting is one that you want it to be hard and therefore you don't want to put difficulty settings in it, that's fine. That's the kind of game you want to make, and you can make that.
I would say that because of how I like to play games, FromSoft games often waste my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have wasted hours grinding, trying to take down bosses that I, by the internet standards, have the stats for. But it's a skill issue. I'm fully okay with saying that. And
Right.
it's just kind of wasting my time because I don't want to try to fight this boss for 3 hours. I'm okay with 2 or 3 tries and then I finally got the pattern, whatever. But I'm not willing to put in the time, and so it's just wasting my time by the way I want to play a video game.
Yeah. And so I think there's a difference between that and a literal
Come back in 6 hours.
you
yeah.
want this reward, we will not give it to you for another 6 hours. Yeah, exactly that.
Unless-
Yeah. Yeah. So
You go get your mom's credit card.
oofa doofa Fortnite. So I think there is a way that you can do time gated systems well, or at least excusably. But for me, this is the one that, especially for a guy who played a lot of mobile games, but also refuses to spend money on mobile games.
Yes.
This is the one that I see the most often.
Oh no, it's the most sinister for sure.
Yeah,
It's the most sinister. I
But-
can excuse, a single player game having grinding sessions to take out a enemy, like a mega boss at the end. That's just your personal choice, and we'll just put it down.
or like Slay the Spire, the game that I have the most hours in by far. It's because they have the daily challenge, and it is something that keeps me coming back to it every single day. It succeeds in that. I come back every day to do the daily, and that's it. But I can also I can play Slay the Spire anytime I want. It's just that one way of playing Slay the Spire is,
Yeah.
is a time gated system, and I think that's fine. It's not saying you can't play the game. It's just saying this we release a daily
There's
once
a
a
daily
day.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the third one here, meaningful progress in short sessions. This
It's
might
so
be the one I most disagree with.
It's so subjective.
It's so
What is
wildly
meaningful
subjective.
and what is short.
Exactly.
I've been feeling this way. I've been playing Alan Wake 2, and there's often times where I can just play for 15 minutes and, wander around, find some clues, and feel like, yeah, I made some progress. I did some stuff. That's all I have time. But there are other games where that's just not really feasible. It's a game that, especially with games that are like multiplayer, if you're playing League of Legends, you don't get a short session. You get, here's how long a match takes.
Right.
That's it. Like, you don't get to say that I only have 10 minutes. Let's play one match. No, that's going to be 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. And what is meaningful progress on top of this?
Yes.
Like, if I go and I play Elden Ring for half an hour, I'm at such a high level that I'm not going to gain a level in half an hour. I'm not
Yeah.
going to gain half a level in half
Are
an
you
hour.
going to make any progress
But
by some standard?
I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to
Yes.
search new areas probably, or talk to new, like, it really just depends on what you consider meaningful progress. A lot of times there's no actual genuine progress, especially for games like, I'll toss back in Slay the Spire, that I play for about an hour a day, maybe hour and a half a day, and I don't get anything from it. There's literally, at the end of that hour and a half, I have zero progression in Slay the Spire. I have just completed a single task that I wanted to. Like, again, I like that. I'm okay with that. So this is the one that, again, I'm the most like, okay, hold on, man. We need to very carefully define progress and meaningful in this situation.
Yeah, I agree. And especially with like Balatro or something, I do feel this a little bit where I can play if I played a short session, it's because I didn't make meaningful progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
A typical thing is going to take 20 or 30 minutes depending, but this one only took 10 because I lost. Or I could do the, like, it really just depends on how the RNG can be a big time waster sometimes.
Yeah.
But I know that going in. Doesn't mean it's not frustrating to get a final big blind in Balatro that just completely disrupts my entire play style that I've built a deck around. And it just feels like, well, I just wasted all that time. like there's just so much stuff that goes into how we define these things that this feels like the worst of the 5, like you're saying.
Yeah, and because at the end of it, you're talking about Balatro. What if the reason you play Balatro is just because you enjoy the deck building aspect? Then you
Sure,
get to
sure.
the end of it and the blind screws you, and you're like, ah, beans, that sucks. But you were really pleased with the deck that you built. You were really, really thrilled with this deck that you have built.
Sure. Or I'm going into I'm going for a trophy, and I had to get these 6 things done, and I didn't win, but I got those 6 things done. So cool.
So
Meaningful
I-
progress.
I think that something that could be universally agreed upon as progression that is not meaningful in a short time is going to be a really small window. Like there's going to be very few things that people universally say, I did not gain anything from that in that short time, and it was not enjoyable to me.
Right,
It was not
right.
worth my time at all. And I think that the things in that window that fit aren't just meaningful progress in short sessions, it's bad game design.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
in fact, there's something in game design that's called the 30-second loop. And it is,
Yes.
what is the player expected to do in 30 seconds that they are pretty much going to be doing over and over and over again, in Elden Ring being to go fight an enemy. That's the thing that you're going to be doing in 30-second loops. In Animal Crossing, it's talking to people, going to talk, exchanging things,
decorating
whatever else,
something,
decorating, things like that.
Fishing. Yeah,
You
there's a
know,
myriad of stuff.
real easy 30-second loop in these. And if you have a decent 30-second loop, short sessions are almost always going to be at least somewhat meaningful.
Yeah.
You're actually going to go in there, you're going to enjoy whatever thing that you're doing in 5 minutes and 10 minutes, whatever else. If it is not enjoyable in any way, shape, or form, then that's bad game design. That's probably not a very good game.
Sure. Yeah. If you don't have an enjoyable 30-second loop, Death Stranding, you're gonna feel like you're gonna put an hour into it and feel like, okay, I just walked for an hour, had to run away from some sludge monsters, but that didn't do anything, or they got me and I just had to drop my stuff and pick it up again. Like, it didn't have any consequence. Like, there's just so much that goes into it. I think it's good to point out the author, if that's the person that's in the picture at the top, which I'm assuming it is,
Yeah.
looks to be in their 30s, late 30s or 40s. And so, I mean, if we just go by, generalized demographics, might have kids, might have other things going on, who knows. Like, for me, this is also extremely important, though. I cannot drop everything and play video games any time of the day. Most
Right.
people can't.
Right.
They have a limited amount of time to play, and so it is very important that if you have half an hour to play a game, it feels like you didn't just waste your time. Zoning out is fun, but if that's all the game is good for, you're gonna drop that game at some point.
And this is where I think meaningful progress short sessions should be replaced with frequent save points.
Okay.
Or at least like an ability to start and stop frequently. Because
yeah,
I think
without feeling like you're just stopping in the middle of the action. Sure.
the classic way, like the old time of stopping and saying, I can't stop until I find a save point or I'm going to lose my last 15, 20 minutes of stuff literally down the drain.
Yes.
I think that is a very meaningful way to say this is wasting my time. Like, the average space in between save points is about 45 minutes. That means you literally cannot pick up the game for half an hour and put it back down and feel like you've done something successful.
Unless you're leaving your system on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which I did at once when I was a kid.
But even just for a meaningful play session, yes, you can't always guarantee that. And so, yeah, games like, I think that's true for Metroidvanias. Metroidvanias a lot. Search action games, to use another term, is just like that. I feel I did all these things already. I don't want to have to do them again.
Right.
I did this platforming section. It was supposed to be a challenge, and I already completed the challenge. And if it's not supposed to be a challenge, then it's just running. And I don't want to just have to run through this screen again 100,000 times.
Right.
Give me frequent, let me teleport, give me frequent save points. I don't know, make
That's-
it better for my time.
That's one thing I've really been appreciating about Will of the Wisps, the second Ori game that I've been playing recently.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it makes your progression very meaningful. Not just that you're able to traverse to a new area, But when you must go back through old areas, there are certain pockets and spaces in the old areas that you weren't able to reach before that you can get some more
Well, yeah,
currency.
I mean that's a classic
or some more.
Metroidvania. That is
So
a Metroidvania. Right there,
essentially
yeah.
just saying that, like, yes, I do have to go back from point A to point Z, but on the way in between, I can still now get new things. There's new cool things
Yes.
that I can get and
Right,
do
right,
while
right.
I'm on the way.
It's more progress.
Yeah.
for each
So it's a good way to do things like that. Okay.
yeah. Let's move on.
Respect for player choice.
This one's interesting.
Right. Define that for me, Fox. What do you think that means? Respect for player choice.
I mean, most games at least give you the what's the word I'm looking for? A illusion of player choice. The things you're doing, you could have done it differently, and therefore what you've chosen to do matters. The obvious, like, famous opposite of this is press F to pay respects.
Right.
You can literally, like, if you don't do it, you can just stand there and the funeral just kind of pauses and waits for you, where you might as well have just had it be a cutscene. Why are you interacting with this? There's no choice here. It's just waiting for you to press a button arbitrarily. And so respect for player choice makes sense to, I mean, as a game design standard, it just makes sense. What's interesting is framing it as a time waste, like a time concern. And I wonder, how would you consider respect for player choice a time wasting concern?
So in my, like, what I got from this is I'm going to go back to Elden Ring because that's what I've been playing the most.
Sure.
Is I made the choice to not invest in faith
Mhm.
as part of my builds, and I have missed out on a lot of things because I did not make that choice. Now, I understand that at any given moment I could have changed my choice to continue going into faith,
Sure.
but I feel like I was in a small way punished for not investing in this. And something that the game could have made clear from pretty early on is, hey, this is an important stat in this game. This is one you're going to see a lot in this game. And my choice, if I did want to then change my choice and invest in faith, it was going to take a lot of time. A lot of time. Now, Elden Ring solves this in that there being a complete respec option that you could at any time just go and entirely respec your levels. But
Which is a great time
Right.
respecting thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to start the game over or just invest 1,000 more hours. Just redo it. It doesn't make any sense
Right.
character wise, but it's a meta thing that, hey, we understand you don't want to have to do this. Just go ahead. It's fine. This will help you enjoy the game and not feel like you wasted your time.
But like there's an old Penny Arcade option in which or comic, I mean, in which he's talking about a Deus Ex game, and he chose to like be a hacker. That was his class, and that he just felt like he was getting demolished everywhere he went because all his stuff was based on computer things, but it's a combat focused game.
When you fight a boss, there's nothing to hack.
And so now the game takes way longer because you have made a choice that the game is just artificially punishing you for.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's where what's kind of what I think it was getting at here.
At the end of the day, yes, it's wasting your time to give you a choice if that choice meaningfully doesn't matter. Like if I'm thinking in like in terms of like a responding like in a dialogue tree or something in like a Mass Effect, a BioWare game
Oh
or something
man, that's a
like
really
that.
good example. Yeah,
Where-
yeah.
The answers I give are seemingly would have wildly different paths. If I punch this lady or, famously punch the reporter or just like respond enthusiastically, that should have big consequences. Mass Effect is famous and infamous for those player choices because they actually did. You could be a very different character and have very different things happen through the games, and it would like, you start here and it goes wide. And then you get to the end of the third one and it just comes back to
Yep.
like three
Yep.
kind of arbitrary options where a lot of the choices you made ultimately did not really matter. It
Yeah.
did in the moment and maybe a little farther down the line, maybe even in between games, but at the conclusion of this epic saga that they had been building, a lot of it was just a little speed bump along the way that ultimately led to one of three things happening. And so for that, if I'm spending my time thinking, here's how I want my character, I feel like maybe Baldur's Gate or something could be another example. It's like, here's where how I want my character to be, how I want them to respond, who I think they should be. And then, so this dialogue option makes the most sense. And then it doesn't actually result in what you want. Well, then you just wasted all that time contemplating what your choice is. Just have it be an on the rails thing.
Yeah.
My brother loves Fallout and feels this way about Fallout 4, where he feels that the choice to voice act every single line of dialogue in the game vastly limited the options for what you can do and your role-playing options, because they can't voice act literally every single line that a human can speak, so they are bottlenecking everything. They might give you a few different options, but they're still bottlenecking the... Whereas if it was just text that you're choosing from, they could put 10 different lines on there and not have to have somebody speak all those out loud. And so I ultimately, your choices should matter. I'd almost rather have an Uncharted. There's no player choice in Uncharted. You are playing an on the rails game, going through the same exact story that everybody else is going to experience. But because I didn't have to choose what happened, I didn't feel like at any point, well, what was the point of me choosing that? It just, it led to the same exact, big climactic fight in a burning down building or whatever. No, I didn't choose, so I didn't have to waste my time choosing. Like, I'd almost rather have that most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, the last one here. No systems or quests designed to suck up my time to progress the main story.
This feels so vague.
Here I have, in my opinion, the example for this, and it's old Zelda games. To progress the story, you need the magnifying glass. But to get the magnifying glass, you have to give this person the bag. But to get the bag, you have to give that person a carrot. But to get a carrot, you have to give this person soap or whatever.
Sure.
And it's just
to take on the old adventure games, yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like running all over the place, being the DoorDash for all of Hyrule.
Yes.
And just so you can get this last thing where none of these characters have any sort of like story point. None of this is anything but another speed bump on the road for you to get to this point in the game. This to me is like the artificial time suck there.
Yeah, okay, I can see what you mean, where it's like this makes no logical sense. I see things like this in Outlast. I remember playing through Outlast, first-person horror game. You're in an insane asylum. All these things, it's very creepy and whatever. But there are multiple times where it's like, oh, there's an exit over there or a window I could get through. But unfortunately, there's an overturned table in the way. You're like, you're a full-grown human being. Jump over it. Find a box and climb over it. What are you doing? But no, it's just an arbitrary thing that's like, nope, can't do that. You got to go through the sewer where the cannibal is lurking. No, why do I have to do that? Or I just installed The Last of Us Last of Us Part 1, the remake of The Last of Us. And there is an option in the accessibility menu of just skipping the puzzles. And that tells you those puzzles are meaningless.
Yes.
Those puzzles are there to extend the playtime. Because puzzles in The Last of Us are not difficult.
Right.
They're not like designed to test your brain power and to like, whereas like even in Uncharted, they're sometimes a little more difficult. You have to like logically think through them. Puzzles in The Last of Us are find the ladder and bring it to the spot.
And oftentimes Ellie will run over and say, "Hey, I found a ladder over here." And that just you got to go and hit the button to pick it up, and then walk back over there and hit the button to put it down.
Yes.
Yeah. So calling them puzzles, these are great examples, and I wholeheartedly
like
agree with
systems
these.
that are not, they're like, you don't. If this wasn't here, you wouldn't even notice, and you might enjoy the game because it was a little bit tighter and better paced.
I think a lot of those come from a time in which devs were asking themselves, "How do we make this more real? What do we do to make this feel like you are actually in this world?" When you're walking around, is there going to be a ladder on every single ceiling? No, of course not.
You
But
can't carry one
there
with
might
you.
there might be dumpsters nearby.
Death Stranded.
You know, there might be a stack of boxes nearby,
Sure.
and you got to find that stuff. But at that point is when we started having the more important conversation of quality of life, meaning I don't care how real it feels or doesn't feel.
Yes.
It sure is dumb that I have to go fetch a dumpster every single time. Sometimes there's going to be a dumpster just there. And you know what? If there was a dumpster there every time, it's going to be okay. You know, so I think that it began with a time when devs were asking themselves, how do we make this more realistic? And now we're realizing it doesn't have to be.
I feel this way a lot when I'm playing through like The Last of Us and Uncharted, where they will often, you know, you'll see a landmark in the distance and the characters will be like, well, that's where we have to go. And it's like, you know, it stands out in the background. But then the next 2 hour is just like crisscrossing through different buildings and like up and down and just to get to this next spot.
Yeah.
And it feels like, has there never been one where it's just, oh, that's where we have to go. Let's walk straight down this road and now we're there. like every single road is blocked. This doesn't make any sense.
Well, we're going long, and I got to leave to pick up my kids soon, so we're going to call it there, chat. Yeah, we're going to call it there. So let us know, everybody, what you think about artificial game lengthening. What does that mean to you? What are ways that you dislike it, and how can we remedy this? Quickly, Fox, what have you been up to, my friend?
I've been playing Alan Wake 2, as I said.
Ooh, yeah.
Alan Wake 2 is maybe one of the like most drastically different, like Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 are drastically different games in the gameplay style. Alan Wake 2 is very modern Resident Evil. I think you would love it and how you actually progress and find items, and you have like a limited inventory space and you can extend it, and like a lot of things takes a lot of things like that, but it's a lot more psychological than it is just, you know, gothic horror or whatever.
Right.
And it's super fun. You basically play 2 separate stories that, you know, are connected. You play as Saga and you play as Alan Wake, and you have similar, you know, systems and stuff, but you're playing two different games essentially at the same time, 2 different storylines. And part of it is I've been in a real Twin Peaks mood, and it's very Twin Peaksy. I'm back in the Northwest. I'm exploring this zany town with these weird characters. In this one, they put Coffee World, a small like theme park that you can wander around. Obviously, big tween, like, you know, a lot of coffee references.
Yeah,
Twin Peaks. It's just super fun. It looks beautiful. It's willing to be a little creepy and also goofy like Twin Peaks. There's a lot of meta humor in it, where like at one point you watch like a 5-minute episode of a live action episode of a fake late night television show, where the actor who, you know, voices and plays Alan Wake is playing himself, you know, playing Alan Wake on the show. The other guest is the guy who plays Alan Wake's character from his books in the movie adaptations of his books.
But he's also one of the
person is Sam Lake, who is the head developer of the game.
Yeah.
And it's just, it gets so deep into the band on this late night show is Poets of the Fall, who do a lot of the soundtrack for the Alan Wake games. And it's just, it gets super meta and super convoluted, but they do it in such a good way that you're like, okay, I don't even understand exactly what's going on. That's fine. And
That's
a lot
fun.
of this is about vibes.
Yeah.
Remedy
absolutely.
has a really good tone in how they make games, where some of it's goofy. It does not detract from some genuinely creepy moments and sequences that you go through. So been really enjoying it.
I finally completed Shadow of the Erd Tree. Another reason Elden Ring has really been on my mind recently. Just beat it recently. It's outstanding, right? I mean, I've argued that Elden Ring might be one of the greatest games ever created, and its DLC is also spectacular. Gasp. You know, it does a really great job of making things feel new, adding new mechanics. Like there's a whole stealth section in the game that
seems suspect.
It's weird, but it's really well done. Number one, it's completely optional, but number two, you enter a spooky looking area, a dark forest, and then there's developer messages, which are like, you know, the player messages you can leave on the ground. It's like that, but they look different and they stand out more. And you can walk up to one and you read it and it just says, "Don't let them see you."
Interesting.
And then you walk back and see another one that says combat is not an option. And like
Did
you're
they straight up tell you that?
yes.
That's
And
weird.
it like there's some really creepy, just ominous messages. And then you see an enemy that's very reminiscent from an equally terrifying enemy in Bloodborne. And you just got to sneak your way through. And it's really cool. Then later on, you find out there is a way to kill them. But yeah. So all this to say that the story is exactly as weird and convoluted as Elden Ring and any other FromSoft game, but still really worth exploring and finding little clues and hints around the world. It is challenging and fun and rewarding, and the visuals are spectacular. I spent probably 60 hours on the DLC, and it was worth every minute to me. Really was. Great game.
Sure.
A+.
I've heard a few good things about it.
1 or 2.
For a big tonal shift, Faith and I, my wife and I watched The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh
movie
yeah.
From the early to mid 2000s, Anne Hathaway in a really early role. She, it basically plays a person who gets a job at a huge fashion magazine, who doesn't know about fashion. It's essentially like the concept of, how far are you willing to change yourself for others in order to be successful,
Right.
is the kind of main, theme of it, the moral idea. And it was okay. It was like, I remember it being more popular than I feel like it deserves. I mean, the only thing that really stands out is what's her name?
Anne Hathaway?
Not Anne Hathaway,
Meryl Streep?
but Meryl Streep. Thank you. Meryl Streep plays the villainous, head of the magazine, and it was I mean, spoilers for this movie, but it was a pretty disappointing ending, where the only person that really feels like they change is the main character, is Anne Hathaway. Like, the villainous, Meryl Streep character doesn't.
Right.
There's a brief moment where she kind of smiles that Anne Hathaway has left and is doing good, and she's like kind of happy for her, seemingly, but she's still living this miserable existence that is entirely self-centered and torturous to others and her own employees. It's the most problematic, workspace ever invented. And then you have Emily Blunt plays. She's basically she's another employee of this person, and she just doesn't change and is kind of left to suffer still, and hasn't learned any lessons. And it just kind of feels like a bad ending, that doesn't make me feel good. Hey, I'm glad Anne Hathaway made the right choice, but everybody else is just kind of stuck in this terrible world. And it was
a lot of it
not
feels
what I
like
expected.
a person walks in a room and everybody in that room abuses them.
Yes.
And then they choose to walk out of the room. And we all celebrate the fact that she walked out of the room.
Yes.
But really, it's all exactly the same as it was at the beginning. Like,
it's
in a
just
lot of ways,
it's just going to be another person that's going to get abused when they walk in. No, the villain doesn't get their comeuppance, which is extremely disappointing. And so it also feels like an early 2000s, like, it feels right for the time as far as like a moral story goes. Like, it's just focused on this one person. That's all that matters, when it just leaves behind a lot of other problematic stuff. So anyway,
Yeah.
glad I watched it.
I have been reading the Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novels, lent to me by your brother. Not only are these the collected works, but they are also the special edition where there are artist and writer commentaries in the margins, and it's super duper cool. Not only does it do a perfect job of picking up right where Avatar: The Last Airbender left off, literally right where it left off, but the art is done so well that you can hear the characters' voices. Like, you can hear the voice acting. You can hear how they would be presenting these phrases and these words and whatnot. And it's so well done. It's so fun for it. But at the same time, as Atla has done really, really well, is presenting a really genuine, heartfelt, and relatable story. This one being, at what point as a ruler do you have to stop and realize I'm becoming Ozai?
Does Aang go on to
I'm be-
be a ruler?
No, Fire Lord Zuko.
Zuko does.
Yeah.
okay.
And so it's Zuko being like, how do I balance being a firm and just ruler, but also not being Ozai? Somebody who
great.
cares about my people and my country. Is these are the people that I am in charge of, but I'm not then being heartless and cruel to, and xenophobic essentially. And it's really good, and it all comes down to a promise at the beginning in which Zuko asks Aang, if I ever become my father, I want you to kill me. And promise me that you will. And it's so well done. I finished the promise. I'm now starting the search, which is about halfway through the search, which is Zuko looking for his mother. And this brings back Azula into play. And Azula is one of my favorite characters in the series. So really, really well done. Really cool stuff. They're spectacular. I love them. I really do.
Cool. That's all I got.
Well, I got one more quick one then for music. A while back, I talked about Epic, the musical. It is a concept musical based on the Odyssey, done by a YouTube musician, essentially. And he's been making these every little once in a while. He comes out with 3 to 5 songs. That's a new saga, whether it's the Troy saga, the Cyclops saga, the Circe or the Ocean saga, the Circe saga, and each one is a different section of the story in the Odyssey. At first, I likened the music to sort of like a Dwarven or like a warrior metal, whatnot. I'm finding that each album is bringing its own flavor, and it's really cool the way that it does this. The first 2, the Troy saga and the Cyclops saga, are a lot about combat. And so it really has a lot of that style and genre. But then as it goes on, it gets into more poppy music, a lot more there's even some retro 70s and type disco feel into some of the songs and whatnot. And he plays them a lot. I find the only thing that I'm starting to get a little sad about is that it's clearly all synthesizer. There's no real instruments in any of this stuff.
Oh, I see.
And so when it comes to
That's gonna lengthen development time so much.
particularly with the horns, the brass, you can tell that it's synthesized music. And so it's a little sometimes the music's not exactly what you want it to be, but it's very good nonetheless. That's all I got.
All right.
Well,
Cool.
thank you for
Me
being
too.
here, chat. I got to head out real quick here. So unfortunately, we're not going to be doing the post show either. Thank you to being here. We want to say a really big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song. All my friends have Wi-Fi, and so do most of my neighbors, off of the album Dear Sam. If you like our intro/outro, go check out Granger. They are good at music.
Agreed. Hey, and we don't just do that. Well, we do this for a lot of fun, and to hopefully not waste your time, like some games waste your time.
Yeah,
But this is also an extension of Save Point Ministries, founded by Steve, founded by Dez. You're Dez, and also Steve. Save
both.
Point Ministries exists in order to do what we think is important, and that is give people a place to find a real life in-person community. We appreciate the internet for a lot of what it can do. It can bring people together. It can bring people together that would have never met before. But we also do believe and recognize the science and the studies that have been done that there is something missing when that's all the community that you have. And so what we want to do here at Save Point is to bring you together in real life with other people. And we as Christians find that the church is a wonderful place to do that. And so if that is something that you feel is missing from your life, if you would like to just find an in-person community at a place with people who respect what you enjoy doing, and are hopefully probably going to be right there with you enjoying it, playing video games or card games or whatever it is you like to do, please jump on our Discord, head to the website savepointministries.com, and connect with us, because we exist to help you find that community.
One more time, thank you for being here. Apologies that we're going to have to end it right here. There will be no post show. No, not that outro, this one. Thank you for being here, and always remember that saved games save lives.
Bye.
I did it.